Patty Lockhart from National Nurses United and Nurse Talk drops by to talk about single-payer health care and how we really need to make this happen. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to our channel. Healthcare in America, a project of the National Nurses United and California Nurses, nursetalksite.com.
Nursetalksite, SITE.com.
SITE. Patty, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. It's great having you here with us, too. And by the way, the Twitter handle is @NurseTalk. So I understand that National Nurses United, which is the largest union of nurses in the country, has gotten political. And, we've talked with nurses over the years about this, but give us a recap of where you all are at right now.
Well, National Nurses United was actually the first organization to give us a green light. We were back in 2009. We started this crazy little program called Nurse Talk, where laughter is the best medicine. Started by two really funny nurses saying, gee, we could really, use the same model as Car Talk, because people would listen to us if there was laughter. And nurses are very funny anyway. So we started the show, I pitched it, had lots of people just to go, why in the world would we want nurses on the radio? We've got doctors. So it started then. But finally, in San Francisco Bay Area where we live, a program director said, I kind of like this thing. Let's throw them, literally throw them on the air for 12 weeks and see what happens. And that was at Green 960, a station you're familiar with, and we did 12 weeks of chaos and came out the other end with a sponsor. We pitched it to National Nurses United, California Nurses Association, as a media vehicle, a voice for nurses in media. Roseanne DeMauro, who was a wonderful visionary, said, green light, let's do it. That was 10 years ago, and the partnership has lasted
That's great.
until now.
And you all are also really aggressively arguing for Medicare for all.
Absolutely.
Why is this an issue for nurses?
Well, that's a core issue for nurses because it would be a really simple understanding that they are on the front lines of what happens, not only when people don't have access to health care. They see things in the emergency rooms. When people don't have access, emergency rooms become hospitals for them. There's chaos. But even when they do have insurance, Tom, nurses and nurse managers on the floor are now fighting with insurance companies to get the right treatment for their patients. And in the middle of protocols and treatment that's ordered by doctors, nurses find themselves literally having to pick up the phone and call the insurance companies to see if they can move forward with treatment.
I had a doctor in Washington, D.C. who had a full-time nurse practitioner in his office. And nurse practitioner is kind of the top end of the food chain for nurses. And a full-time nurse practitioner whose only job was to call and harass insurance companies.
That's right. Now, isn't that, first of all, it's a waste of nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
And it's just, and another thing, too, and I know that you've been talking about this, is that we have 44 million uninsured, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. We also have an issue with Medicare Social Security. You've been talking about Medicare Advantage and what's happening in the Medicare Advantage.
Which is the privatized corporate
Medicare Advantage has been around, and Kaiser has done a fairly decent and honest platform for that. They've administered people's money for Medicare Advantage for a long time with not a lot of issues.
Of course, they're a nonprofit.
They're a nonprofit. So enter United Healthcare, enter Humana, Blue Cross. 2 or 3 years ago, this thing got crazy, and now they are Medicare Advantage. They are at the trough for Medicare dollars, and this is and what they say they provide seniors is not what they get. They manage their money, and that means if you had straight Medicare, your dollars would go to certain procedures. You would get long-term care. You would get a home or a stay in a rehab center. Well, if you've got Medicare Advantage, by one of the insurance companies, then they're taking your dollars and saying, you know what, I think you only get 20 days. You're supposed to get 100 days in rehab, but you're only going to get 20.
So all
That's
that.
all we're going to pay for, because that part goes to their administration.
Yeah. So whenever
So
I
they're
see
lining
these.
their pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever I see these ads on TV, the thought that comes into my mind is, where is the money coming from to spend millions of dollars on television advertising? Oh, it's coming out of my premiums.
It's coming out of your premiums.
It's coming out of them saying, no, I'm not going to pay for that procedure.
That's right.
Patty Lockhart, with the executive producer of Nurse Talk. NurseTalkSite.com is the website. Nurse Talk is the Twitter handle. Patty, great having you in the studio. Thanks so much for dropping by.
Thank you for all you do.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you. We sure
You're out there
will.
fighting the fight for all of us. God bless you.
Thank you.